What is up, you guys? My name is Aubrey and this is my channel, and today I wanted to talk about small business funding and potential grants that you could use and you could take advantage of if you're somebody who's wanting to start a business. You see, with the EIDL grant program, I've been receiving a lot of comments in the comment section of my videos talking about how, because of the fact that the SBA EIDL grant was not intended for new businesses that have not started yet, a lot of people were asking for resources on how to go about getting funding for their startup and how to go about getting funding for their side hustle that they have not been able to start yet due to lack of funding. So today we'll be going over some of the different strategies that you could go about getting your own funding to start your own business or your own side hustle. I'll be pointing you in the direction of a number of different resources for grants and programs that can offer free grants, and I'll also be pointing you into the direction of a few different alternatives that you may not have thought of. So let's get started. So let me first give you guys a little bit of backstory and why I feel like I am a reputable source to talk about funding. I am somebody who received $330,000 in business funding at the age of 21 years old. And I know the kind of impact that that amount of money can have in starting your business. I also know how much that effect can have on your life as a whole. And for me personally, I lost that business that I got that funding for. And as we sit here today, I am still paying off that $330,000 loan, despite the fact that the business that I got the loan for is no longer open. So not only do I know how to secure a large amount of money in funding, I also know that sometimes funding isn't all it's chalked up to be. In fact, I think so often people get into this mindset that they need funding in order to start their business, that if they only had $1,000 or only had $5,000. And I'm here to tell you that most of the time that simply is not the case. For the most part, if you have a side business or a side hustle that you are wanting to start, you can probably start that business without any sort of extra funding at all. It may require you to go out and to do side hustles of your own, like drive for Uber, drive for Lyft, do DoorDash. It may require you to do kind of those sort of creative outlets in order to make some extra cash to fund your side business. But in my personal opinion, going out there and making a few extra $1,000s to fund your side business on your own is significantly better than going out and trying to get excess funding that you may have to pay back or that you may have to give up a percentage of ownership of that business in order to secure the funding. So I want everybody who's watching this video to really take an analytical look at your business and an analytical look at your side hustle and really determine whether or not funding is absolutely necessary. Because I'm here to tell you that chances are it's probably not. So once you've taken a real look at your business and your business model and you've decided whether or not you really need to get excess funding, and if you decide that you do need that funding, you do need that grant, then there are a few resources that you can turn to in order to get that funding. But before you do that, you need to make sure that you have a few things in line. First and foremost, you need to make sure that you have some sort of business plan. In this business plan, you need to include what your business is going to be doing, so like what products and services you're going to be offering. You need to provide any sort of financial information you can provide, whether that be projections, whether that be working out the cost of goods, whether it be marketing cost. You need to have any sort of financial information you can laid out so that you can present it to the organization offering the grant or the investor offering the funding. In addition to that, you also want to provide kind of a resume of yourself, because the fact of the matter is, if you are investing in a startup, you're not investing in that startup. Instead, you're investing in the person who's starting the startup. And you are the brand and you are the product if there is no product to be sold yet. So you need to make sure that in your proposal and in your business plan that you provide a lot of information on you provide your backstory, your work history, and you provide reasons as to why you will make this business, this side hustle, this startup successful. Now, once you've gotten your business plan established and you kind of have your ducks in a row, the first thing is I would establish what makes you unique. Now, there are a lot of grant programs being offered to unique business owners. And what I mean by that is people like women of color, like women-owned businesses, like LGBTQ businesses, Native American businesses, minority businesses. Oftentimes, if you're somebody who is involved in a specific college or a specific group within your college, like a sorority or fraternity, you can find funding options by going those routes as well. Whatever kind of unique group you're part of, I would encourage you to look up on Google grant options for blank. So for example, if you are a member of the LGBTQ community, you could say small business grants for LGBTQ business owners. Or if you are a female entrepreneur, you could look up grants for women-owned businesses. Or if you are a minority, you could say grants for minority-owned businesses. You could look up all of these phrases on Google and you will see a number of different grants for those types of minorities and those types of groups of people. For example, Women's Net is an organization that is involved with women entrepreneurs and women-owned businesses, and they have a variety of grant options for women. The Minority Business Development Agency, known as MBDA, has a number of grant programs for minority-owned businesses. Coca-Cola offers a great grant program for LGBTQ business owners. So there are a number of different resources that you could turn to depending on what makes you unique as a business and as a business owner, and you can really try to capitalize off of that when trying to secure a grant. There are simply too many different grant organizations that you could take advantage of that I cannot list them all in this video, but I encourage for you to really take a kind of self-evaluation and really kind of take advantage of the things that make you unique, whether that be being an African American, whether that be a member of the LGBTQ community, whether that be a woman, whether that be like a recovering addict. Whatever the case is, there is grants for virtually every single type of business owner, and it's just a matter of trying to figure out what makes you unique and what kind of hurdles you've had to go through, and really trying to take advantage of those things in a way to secure funding for your business and for your startup. Now, if the grant option and going through a nonprofit doesn't work for you, you still have a number of different options to secure funding, but they do come with significantly more risk than simply getting a grant. A grant, by definition, is a form of funding where you don't have to pay it back, and you oftentimes also don't have to give up any sort of ownership for your business. Whereas whenever you start getting an investor involved, you oftentimes don't have to pay that money back, but you do have to give up a portion of the business, which has a lot of downsides depending on where you expect for that business to go and how much you expect for that business to be worth in the future. Now, the other option is to simply get a loan, and the loan has its advantages in the sense that you don't have to give up any equity in your business, but you do have to pay that money back, and that's where you can sometimes find yourself in a situation like I've been in, where my business closed in 2018 and I am still paying down a $330,000 business loan that I secured years ago to fund a business that no longer exists. So ultimately, if you're somebody who's wanting to start a business, I would probably encourage you to go the loan route only as an absolute last resort. I think more often than not, you do not need any sort of large six-figure loan for a business that you're just starting. And more often than not, going the investor route, or even better, the grant route, will be the best routes to go down for funding for your side hustle, for your startup, or for your business. But if you do choose to go down the loan route, it's important to understand the risks that come along with that. And it's important to go with a lending solution that has favorable terms that you can work with. Ultimately though, in my experience, if you are somebody who has a business or a side hustle or a startup that you are really passionate about and you are wanting to start, you will find a way to find the funding that you need. I think so often I see people, not only in the YouTube comments, but also just in my day-to-day life, who say, oh, I would love to start a business, but the money is holding me back. And I think that so often that is an excuse that people use in order to avoid starting their business or in order to justify the fact that they haven't taken action thus far. At the end of the day, a side hustle and a side gig, they don't require that much funding. And if you really want to start one, you'll figure out a way to do that, even if that means taking up some extra hours in your free time, if that means doing some side hustles of your own in the meantime, if that means going out and getting a second job. Finding funding, especially on a small scale, is not that difficult. You just have to end up putting in the work, you have to get creative, and you have to be persistent on getting the funding that you needed in order to get your business started. Whether that be going the grant option, going the loan option, going the peer-to-peer funding option, or simply self-funding it on your own through extra side work. But ultimately, you guys, I would love to hear what your thoughts are on funding a business. If you guys have any other suggestions that I did not talk about in this video, I would love to hear those. So make sure to comment down below. And while you guys are at it, make sure to also hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and hit that notification bell. And I will see you guys in the next video.